Hello, this is Sandeep Unithan and welcome to Defense Deep Dive. General Manoj Naravane's unpublished book has created a political firestorm. The opposition alleges that at a crucial moment in the standoff with the Chinese in 2020, India's political leadership didn't give clear instructions to the military. Now, a crucial region south of the Pangong Tso has been brought back into focus. This is where India and China faced off using tanks. In fact, tanks have rarely faced off at heights of over 15,000 feet above sea level as they've done in Ladakh in 2020. But why is this region so crucial? And why did the PLA react the way they did? Let's dive in. On the 30th of August 2020, the Indian Army occupied the Kailash range south of the Pangong Tso. This move came over a month after Indian and Chinese troops clashed in the Galwan region. Now, the Chinese response came swiftly on the 31st of August. 4 PLA light tanks backed by over 1,000 soldiers advanced up a narrow track towards Rechinla, closing in to within a few hundred meters of Indian positions. Now, frantic calls flew between Indian field commanders and Army Chief General Manoj Naravane. Now, the rules were clear. India wouldn't fire first without political clearance to avoid escalating into a full-scale war. Now, General Naravane faced a critical decision, but instead of opening fire, he ordered India's tanks, heavier and more powerful tanks, to be positioned nose down on the slopes with their guns pointing directly at the approaching PLA. Now, it was a high-stakes bluff, and the tanks ended up eyeball to eyeball, sometimes just 50 meters apart. Now, to understand the geography of this region, the Kailash range overlooks a 3-kilometer gap in the mountain ranges there. It's called the Spangur Gap. And the Spangur Gap is west of the Spangur Tso lake that opens up into Chushul. Now, Chushul is where an Indian military base and an airstrip are located. The Battle of Rezangla, in fact, was fought here in 1962, where Major Shaitan Singh and 120 soldiers made a heroic last stand. Now, Chushul is undulating terrain, but it's suitable for operating tanks, which means the PLA can drive through this gap and capture Chushul and threaten the road towards Leh town, which is 200 kilometers away, which is why the Indian Army is deployed here in full strength. But when the Indian soldiers occupied the Kailash range, they were in sight of not just the Spangur Gap, but the PLA's garrison town of Moldo, just 25 kilometers east of the LAC. Now, India has deployed tanks and infantry combat vehicles here for several years. And this is in fact one of only 2 places in Ladakh where tanks and ICVs can be deployed. The other place, of course, is the Depsang Plains, that is 200 kilometers to the north. Now, in a full-scale conflict, an Indian armored thrust would go through the Spangur Gap and towards the G219 Xinjiang-Tibet highway. That's just about 30 to 50 kilometers east of the LAC. Now, the G219 is a strategic road linking Xinjiang and Tibet. It's also known as the Aksai Chin Road, which China built in the 1950s. Now, the capture of this road can sever a crucial arterial road between the 2 Chinese provinces. So while India can fall back on the Chushul heights to defend Chushul, China has no such mountain features to protect its Moldo garrison. In fact, it's a straight drive from the Spangur Gap to the G219 highway. Now, China has realized these vulnerabilities and it's working fast to plug them. In 2022, just 2 years after the Ladakh standoff, China built a 500-meter long bridge across the Pangong Tso to allow it to bring troops and equipment from the north bank of the lake to the south bank. It reduced the overall road distance by over 150 kilometers. Now, additionally, it's also developing the G695 highway as a strategic alternative to the G219 to connect Tibet and Xinjiang by 2035. This road bypasses sensitive regions of the G219, including the Achilles heel of the PLA near Pangong Tso Lake.